Hi, I'm Kathleen, and this is The Dinner Project. Today, we'll be chatting with Atlanta actors Tiffany Morgan and Ravi Naidu about the acting process with former casting director and creator of the image design process, Sam Christensen.
Sam, thank you so much. We appreciate your time here in Atlanta and beyond. So Ravi and I have the pleasure of not only getting to interview you, but we have both studied with you. So we have a very personal understanding of this process and a very personal understanding of how this process rolls out in our careers and also personal life. So obviously, actors in the Southeast, they always have questions about casting. It always seems to be this big mystery. I'm sure that both of us at one point or another thought there was a magic casting genie somewhere that was going to help us out. Give us a little idea from your perspective, the role of casting and in today's market specifically.
Well, I think that in all markets, and of course in each locality where, like in Atlanta, the market is very designed around the needs of production in Atlanta, and here you have large industrial needs as well as, you know, a pretty active theater world, and then a lot of television and film that chooses to be here for very good reasons. And that sort of defines certain things about a market and about casting. But I would say in general, wherever casting is going on, there's really a couple of ways to look at it. And I think actors sometimes neglect in their minds one of the ways to look at it. The way I think that all actors understand is that it's about character creation, about auditioning, about suiting the right person to the part. The aspect of it that they may not be as aware of is that it is also a very business-oriented endeavor as well, that has to do with budgets and schedules and filling a certain demand at a certain moment. And consequently, a lot of the things that actors think are choices being made about their talents, or even more strangely about their reading of a given thing that's so important. Very often decisions are being made based on just simply filling slots appropriate to budget, to time, to height balance, to, you know, the mixture. When I was casting, the fun for me outside the artistic part and working with actors as they interpreted characters, the fun for me was just putting together an entire group. It's like merchandising a store in a way, that there be a balance of individuals within both the artistic environment, the character environment, but also the work environment. Am I putting together a group of people who will work together well, who will interact with crew and director and producer, because the complexion of that family is always different. You know, some sets are very about strictness, about budget, about schedule. They're very strict. Other sets more creative. And so am I putting together a family that's going to have a nice reunion? Is part of what the casting director is thinking that the individual actor never really thinks about because they don't need to. But it's a big part of what the casting director is doing, is am I putting together something that will make sense on a day-to-day working relationship level? And then, am I also equaling the needs that the script suggests and that our storytelling mind also suggests? Because some of what goes into casting isn't about that particular script. It's about these kinds of stories and these kinds of people as they exist in the world that the story represents. So a casting director who really is clever and has been at their job a long time, is managing all kinds of business concerns and also managing this overall complexion of a group. What is it going to feel like as a group?
You know, I'm just kind of wondering, like, because I've only worked in this Southeast region so far in my career, and we hear a lot of different things about how things are so different here in Atlanta, and it's not like in LA, and it's not like in New York, and there's like, I still really feel like there's this stigma, you know, of, oh, you're an Atlanta actor. Although I haven't personally kind of been hit by that much when I'm on set and things like that, but there's still, I hear it so much. And I like, it really helps people, I think it helps us to understand, like, what drives that stigma? Like, why is that there?
Right.
Well, I think, you know, when one is at the focus of it, it may feel like being stigmatized. I think what it really is it's like the difference between going to a small university and a giant college. You know, there's a difference of a campus that has 30,000 people as opposed to a campus that has 1,500 people. And the amount that you know people, the amount that those folks are together is different. In these larger markets, New York and especially Los Angeles, you know, it's a huge industry. There are lots and lots of people. It tends to be fairly impersonal. It's moving very, very fast. Whereas in a local market, it's a little slower. People know each other better. You tend to compete with the same people over and over and over again. It's the same 5 people that usually show up at the auditions that you're in for. The number of agents and representatives is smaller. Therefore, it both creates a warmer family atmosphere, but it also heightens competition because there's only 2 or 3 agencies and only so many actors. So it creates a different environment, but I don't think, you know, I think it's like any time that, you know, you're, for instance, a city person, and you go and you're staying in a small town now. You've got to put up with the fact that there aren't as many restaurants and there aren't as many movies and there isn't as much selection. I think when an actor who is cast out of Los Angeles arrives in Atlanta, and is working with an Atlanta cast, they're going to feel like they're big city folks working in a smaller environment. And indeed, that's true.
Well,
But if they're smart, you know, immediately they go, I get it. I'm a big city person. I'm enjoying the beauties of a smaller town, which is how I look at it when I'm in a smaller town. And a smart LA actor goes, I can immediately plug into these people. They aren't lesser people. They're folks that made a choice probably to be in a simpler environment because that agrees with their family life, that agrees with their own sensibilities. Now, I certainly think, you know, there are always some people who want to find a way to look down on other people, and that's certainly one way. I'm a big LA actor, and they are just, you know, little folks. But I think in general, you're going to find that when you're on shows with people that are experienced, they got to Los Angeles via Atlanta or Chicago or San Francisco. They existed in some smaller market and decided on, you know, the larger one for them at a certain point, just like you guys might at a certain point.
I want to go back. You said something in an earlier comment regarding this idea of merchandising, that word stuck in my head. And, you know, part of the process that you have been so brilliant and successful at teaching for 100 years now? More like, you know,
My
20
first
or 30.
class, right? In Reconstruction, I was in.
Back in 1842.
Yeah.
But this concept of the general store versus the, you know, how we're merchandising, and, you know, not to minimize what we as actors do down to something as, you know, referential as an apple or an orange.
Right.
But when you're in the casting and when you're on the other side of the table, you know, it really sometimes is, and you've spoken about this in class, the difference is, you know, whether this person is, you know, because you said heights and colors, et cetera, you've got the same 5 people. So this standing out is something that we all hope to do. And in your process, obviously I know because I've done it a couple times and love it, but can you talk a little bit about this idea, and maybe if it tags in the merchandising, general store idea, great, or however you want to introduce it, because I think that's...
You know, I think the best, the illustration that feels best to me now and that I use is the environment of the callback. You know, for the actor, obviously, getting the audition, that's an important thing. Do I get a chance to show what I do? And that becomes a preoccupation of getting the chances. Once a chance is gotten, then the idea is, now I've got to show how good I am so that I actually get to that Valhalla of the callback, where I really have a chance to get booked. Now, at that level, it is definitely our skills that bring us to the callback group. Our skills and the way we fit the requested breakdown. But clearly, if our skills are up to the level that is required for a given part, and we already are in because we fit the approximate breakdown, when we get to the callback, the environment is different. Now, everybody fits the box because that's what got them the reading in the first place. And then they've all proven their talents. So now it's not about the best reading. Everybody thinks it's, I've got to be better than everybody else. Everybody there's good. That's why they're there. They are in specific consideration for the job. They're good enough to be competing with the folks that they are for that particular role. So that's the moment that this realization comes, that it's not about being the best actor here. And that's what everybody's doing. They're going over their lines and over their lines and over their lines, because I've got to be the best. And it's a silly game because you're already one of the 4 or 5 best. Now, the director or the producer or the executive that's going to make the decision is in a different situation. They are not looking for the best. They assume the casting person they have hired has brought them the best for final consideration. These are the people that could all play the part. Everybody's castable. So if everybody is equally castable in terms of skills, what is then the deciding factor? Oh, the weird, unique, odd, totally unique way that you do it compared to the way the lady sitting next to you does it who looks just like you, because you're all there for the same role. You've all proven your skills. So now everybody, you've sat with 3 of your sisters.
Yep.
And sometimes you look down the line and you go, that one's really good. I saw her in a play last year. She got a local award. She's fantastic. This one had a series. I don't even know why she's here. And then you go, it isn't about being better than these people. I can't do the scene better than them. What I can do is I can do the scene uniquely my way. I can signature, I can sign off. And I think that's what actors neglect. Instead, what they're doing is going over the lines and going over the lines and going over the lines. And I can tell you as a casting person, that's the biggest single mistake you can make. Because what happens is the lines then get that sing-songy thing of gone over and gone over. And if you're a casting person and you're now hearing that scene for the 10th or 12th time, because you've been hearing it pre-callbacks, now you're at the callbacks, and you're hearing that that happens from over and over and over and over again. That is this is when casting directors are grouchy. A big reason they're grouchy is because they've been listening to
I mean, you can pick it up like so fast, can't
instantly.
Because you just see it so
instantly.
much.
Yeah. Which is
I used to purposely stop that. When I was casting M.A.S.H. and I was working with the best directors on television, and I knew I did not want wonderful actors who I knew were wonderful, but I knew if I gave them the chance, they would go over it and go over it and go over it, and it would be a callback full of sing-song. So what I would do is give them a different scene when they arrived. Because all of a sudden, they can't be in their rehearsal. They have got to come right to that scene freshly. They're holding the script anyway, so I don't care if they're reading it. What I want to feel is I want to feel the uniqueness of that individual. I want performance, not recitation. And that going over things creates that recited kind of rhythm, and casting people hear it instantaneously, and they want to pull their hair out by the roots.
I've heard you say this in the past, and I can't, so I'm paraphrasing, but that brings me to this idea of the casting directors, biggest nightmares, why they're frustrated, like why they might be grouchy, et cetera, et cetera. And, one thing you said that was so profound and powerful years ago that I heard you say was this idea that the casting role is one of the most challenging because of the number of times you have to say
no. Casting directors say no all day long. They have to disappoint people. They have to be the ones that say, no, you're not quite right for this, or no, you're not quite experienced enough, or no, you're too tall for this, or no, we want a darker Indian today. You're not dark enough.
Get a tan, Ravi, get a tan.
Whatever it may be, things that we often can't control in all of our rehearsal and preparation. They're saying no, no, no. They never get to say yes. Only the directors, the producers, the networks, the clients say yes. all casting directors. So if you thought about this, if like women know, if you go to a party, how many guys can you say no to before you just go home? It's like, I don't want to disappoint any more guys. I'm going home. And that's exactly how, but casting directors don't have that option.
Right.
They can't go home. So they just get to keep saying no all day, and they live in this world of no, and it tends to dampen the spirit. Even though they do have the fun of advancing somebody to the callback and seeing somebody they love get a real chance to get hired. That, of course, is joy, but they don't get the option to actually say the yes, and actors know that. Actors know it's that director that's going to finally say yes to me, and they're playing to that. And so casting directors live in a world that is not all that, fun because of all the no. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
All that bright and shiny.
And I think that actors can be wiser about knowing that. They can know that these folks live in this thing where they're going to disappoint people all day long. So when an actor comes in and you are not that thing, I hope this goes well, I hope I'm perfect, I hope but you walk in and go, let me show you what I do, and give them a reading and give them one that's uniquely you, you're going to be the person who lightens up that feeling of no just by going, I'd love to work with you sometime.
Yeah.
This one isn't. See, I think the investment is wrong. When people, actors, invest in getting the role, they are literally contributing to that disappointment world. And they're also pinning their whole lives on a specific moment. I think what auditions are really about is creating relationships. Getting the role is a lovely bonus. We hope we book. Yeah. But what's greater is to go, whether I book this or not, I have just created the desire to work further together. So if I don't get this one, I'll get the next one. But if I walk away from an audition knowing I'm on that person's list forever, then this particular job can be the bonus.
The good list, of course.
Yes, but the good
yes,
list.
Robbie, exactly.
But they want to work with me. They go, too tall for this, but I want to work with this actor. Then we've won. That's a winning audition, whether we book or not. So I just always encourage people to let booking be the bonus. Obviously, it's great to book, but to allow that feeling that we now are committed to working together. I will be on your list forever. In a market like this, if you're on the list permanently of 5 or 6 casting directors, that's an entire career.
It is. Preach it.
I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying, preach it, Sam. Preach it. Holla.
I don't think I've shared this with you, but that was really one of the biggest takeaways that I got in working with you.
Good.
I don't know how it happened, I don't know when it happened, but for some reason when I walked out of the time that we had together last year, I just kind of gave up that stranglehold that I tried to have on booking the role, right? On any one individual role being so important to me, and just made it more about just understanding the character and understanding the story, and just, hey, I get to get in front of a casting director I've been in front of before, or I get to meet a new casting director and a new set of people. And
if you back out of it and look at it from the casting director's point of view, first of all, if it isn't all about that role, you relieve that moment of desperation that other actors will come in with. You are instead investing in a friendship, in a relationship, and that's what walks in the room, is our future, not desperation. But just on a purely business level, the casting director's asset is not whether you get the role or not. That's going to be the director's asset because it's going to appear on the screen. The asset the casting director is building is a group of actors I can trust to come in and be themselves and do well every time. So I'm happy if you get the role, but what I really want to know is, can I count on you every time I put you on a list? You're going to come in and do wonderful work all the time. I can't tell you how many times Ed Harris came in for M.A.S.H. before he finally got a role. And he was great. Ed would just come in and he'd look at me like, But he would come in and be entirely himself, and he, of course, was much younger then, but he was a wonderful young actor who had and I just kept going, if you're willing to keep coming, and they're willing to keep seeing you, and you're willing to be on this list, eventually, eventually it'll be the right one. And that's the relationship he created. He was a friend of the show before he was ever on the show.
Right.
And that, I think, is the asset that a casting director wants to build, because the casting person needs a catalog of those folks that will come in, do credible work, and maybe get the role.
Yeah.
Because that's what makes your job, that's what makes the casting director's job easier, right?
Exactly.
And I'm just wondering,
Because like if you're doing one of these shows like Army Wives, you know, you get a script and there are 11 guest star roles to cast in an episode, never mind, because all the regulars are set. So all of a sudden, in 4 days' time, I have to have preliminary auditions, I have to have callbacks for 11 people. So if I see 10 people for a role, right, and there's 11, that's 110 auditions I have to see. And if I bring 5 of them to callback, that's 50 callbacks I have to schedule. All that scheduling has to be done, scripts have to go out, and the meetings have to be scheduled. So the amount those folks have to do on any given episode, and of course you're coming in going, it's my role that's virtual because it's
Right.
important to me. They're just trying to get their job done. So a catalog of people so they can make a list easily, that is the biggest single asset they can have.
And this is just a point you might want to make too, is the assumption that the casting director is simply just doing that, meaning the 10 times the 11 times the 50. The reality of it is once you get to that point where offers are out, contracts you have to get clearance, et cetera, et cetera. And I know, you know, the majority of the Southeast is right to work, but we do have a majority of union and non-union work. And
right.
it's regardless if it's union or non-union, there's still a lot of paperwork and consideration that goes beyond just that. So again, this human respect from role to role, like I want to do my job good, I want you to do your job good, so we all have a fun day at work. I know it sounds
and that's
simple.
why if an actor can take this pressure off of getting the role, and instead they can think of themselves as part of a creative community that's turning out productions. They happen to be the people saying the lines and creating the characters in that whole picture. But if you're invested in what the casting director has to do to get their job done, they can then invest in what you have to do to get your job done. And pretty soon, the roles we play are the job. All of this other stuff that goes on, we're a family of folks trying to support each other and make each other's jobs easier. That's how things get made, and that's how you develop these long ongoing business relationships that deliver you roles as your career develops that you don't even, you know, people call you and go, they just wrote it for you.
Yeah.
This is the stage we want to get to. Never
Yeah.
mind this auditioning and
Of course,
booking.
of
It's
course.
that call, Ravi, we've got this thing, you know, the director had loved you before and we know, will you just come? Are you available these 6 days? You know, let's negotiate, and no reading necessary. You know, that's
That can
that's
happen
heaven
in
for
a regional
you.
market.
Oh,
That
absolutely.
can absolutely happen in a
That's
regional
Absolutely.
market.
That's heaven for you. It's also heaven for the casting
Yeah,
director
of course.
because they didn't have to do all the stuff to.
110, the numbers, the whole.
Yeah.
And that idea of rising tide, you know, I know that that's a very large reason that a show like this exists, is that we create a communication that helps us all understand that this is about we all rise together.
Oh, yeah.
I think in the Southeast and in some other regional markets, not to pinpoint the Southeast, but my experience has been there's this, I am happy to be on the TV,
Right.
versus this is a profession and a career for which we are all, like you said, in community.
Yeah.
So-
And there's nothing that is more of a family environment than that creation that's together, because it will just be that episode. This isn't a business that's going to go on manufacturing the same product day in and day out. This is this episode. Some of the creative team is different than other episodes. Certainly the actors are going to be different. So every little family where there's that investment in that family culture. And that is the thing I think that does raise the level in a market. Is when everybody begins to go, it's about how many shows can we get in this neighborhood? How many different people can hear how wonderful the Atlanta group is? How many people can feel like there's a real environment of storytelling in that city? That's what creates a larger and larger and larger industry in a market like this, so that pretty soon entertainment production can become one of the major industries in a town, like
Exactly.
Coca-Cola or CNN or these things that really sustain Atlanta, when all the other production that's happening here that you guys are a part of is another sustenance in Atlanta. That's when it gets really exciting, when there's a real future here that doesn't mean, because a lot of people are not suited to Los Angeles. If you can make a wonderful career here and you love the Southeast and you love Atlanta and you love this and your family's here, for example, why go there?
Right.
You know, why struggle with that? It's wonderful and it's possible. You know, there aren't many regional markets where it is possible. This happens to be one where a person could have a full-on actor's living or director's living or crew person's living, and they don't have to deal with Hollywood and the freeways. They can live in Atlanta.
Well,
No 405. Oh,
What a shame.
bummer.
yeah, you might have a few people that are from Atlanta that argue with you about the freeway thing, but that's all right.
Yeah, we got Marta.
But still, better than those.
You know, I just think that's such a really important point, because I know what goes through my own head, and a lot of my friends who I talk to is sometimes we get in this mode of just feeling like Atlanta is just a launching pad, and I can't be considered, or I won't be a real actor. I won't be a real contender. I can't get into that upper echelon,
Right.
being where I am now. Now, I've started to kind of modify my thinking on that, just because there's a fairly decent migration occurring from west to east now, instead of the other way around, which is really surprising me. And they all, when I talk to them, they all say the same thing: because you guys have the work. Well, I came because the number of auditions from 2011 to 2012 dropped by 35%. And when I found out where those auditions were going, it was here. So I came back, or I came out here. So that's, like, I think it's really, really important for Southeast Atlanta actors to know that it doesn't just have to be a launching pad. It can actually be, and I'm just wondering, you know, from your, I've been feeling like, of course, I'm very, very biased because I was born here and I've lived here my whole life, but I've always felt like when I started seeing this trend of more production coming to Atlanta and coming to the Southeast, I always felt like it's a very sustainable thing and not just a flash in the pan type of a thing. And I'm just wondering, how do you feel about that? Because there's a lot of anxiety about, you know, if the tax incentive goes away next year, we're all out of work.
Well, you know, it's the reason that you want to be politically active and continue to support the existence of a film commission, and as simple a series of things that people have to go through to come here. All that's something that the creative community can support politically. But then there are just some other advantages. I mean, this is an industrial hub of several different kinds of businesses. The existence of CNN has already created a media technical environment here that supports technical folks and camera rental houses, all those kinds of things. And then also the weather is a very big positive here. So I think Atlanta has already proven, and will continue to prove, that it has all of the elements necessary to be a major hub of entertainment production. It already is, and I think in all ways it just promises to grow and grow and grow. And I think there is no reason to believe that it won't rival Coca-Cola and CNN and the other things that this locale is known for. And then all the things that feed that, the ad agencies and the marketing agencies and the suppliers, and, you know, all the jobs that fall from those industrial centers. And I have every reason to think that Atlanta will count among the 4 or 5 industrial centers that it is. Entertainment will be one of those things, the way Coca-Cola or CNN are, you know, Atlanta-based.
We have such a strong infrastructure, everything you just mentioned, plus in the last couple of years, these crew houses and gear houses and the screen gems, that, you know, we've got a lot of stages that are built. And this, again, I'll say it again, because I think it's a wonderful thing to have this platform to share, like training, like the training you do. That's the thing that's on our shoulders as actors, is to be responsible to our talent and be responsible to our community and be responsible to our careers beyond just, like I said earlier, the happy to be on TV, because that was a lot of it for many years. You had a few shows that were shooting, a few films coming here and there was a population that was very happy to be on TV. Now there are those of us that make a full-time career of it and make a full-time living of it, and it is demanding of those of us who have been around a little bit longer to let the youngins who have this YouTube generation, right, know that it is a craft, an art, a skill that you have to build your wheelhouse with strong. So this is why I've been thrilled to have you a part of our community, because you go beyond, the Sam Christensen process goes beyond this idea of hit your mark, see your light, wear your makeup, to this depth of person. And to that, if you could just talk.
Well, you know, in my own development, because I've been in show business for a lot more years than you're even alive, and all my friends are actors, directors, everybody I know virtually is involved in this business, and most of them actors.
Right.
And as I have moved through this from the casting side and also from the instructional side, it is that thing I was talking about earlier that became the thing that I felt I could contribute most. Just where my talents and leanings had to do with that issue in that callback of, oh, now it isn't about my skill. I'm at this callback because I'm skilled. I'm at this callback because my essential wheelhouse of scene study and improv and the things that actors need to study and learn, that's in place. I have learned that. Of course, there's always little refresher courses and tweaks we make, but essentially, I'm a professional. I've got the skill level. These other folks sitting at this callback have the skill level too. I'm not going to be better than them. At that point, that other decision factor of what is it I uniquely bring and how much permission do I have to allow this part to be also a function of me. And as you know, you guys, because I make it's sort of the thematic basis of what I do, is a quotation that I found in Laurence Olivier's autobiography, second volume. He had enough of a life, he could write two volumes.
We should be so lucky, right?
So, and in the second he says, and again I'm paraphrasing, but I'm pretty good on this now, he said, it took me 35 years of working as an actor. So 35 years that people were hiring him at a fairly high level. He was Lord Olivier, or Laurence Olivier, Sir Lawrence at that point.
Yes.
Yeah, at that point. And, he said, it took me 35 years working to learn that it is not what I must become to play the part. It is what that role becomes because I am playing it. And I think that issue, when you're sitting at that callback with other skilled people, and you're all playing the bank vice president who's going to turn down the series lead for their loan, and it's 3 important scenes, and you look down this line of other women, and you go, I could justify each one of these women playing it. And I know them all. I've worked with a couple of them. The skill level is there. We're all at the callback. What do I do now? And that's the part I want to work on with people, because that other aspect, besides the skills that are expected at that point, the other aspect is that question, who is the bank president because Tiffany is playing her, versus, and maybe it's one of those gender unspecific, could be, who is the bank president if Ravi is playing him? And what I've got the same lines to say, no matter whether it's me or the other actor, we're all saying the same things. But just the way you two interview, the way you two walk down the street, never mind gender difference, which is obvious, but just your sensibilities, your humor, your thinking, different human beings, different backgrounds. So the way you're going to play the bank vice president is going to be unique to you. It isn't an acting issue. There may be things to play and to act. I'm not discounting that. But there are just things that come in from the way you sit. Look at the ways you sit. This bank president's going to sit like this, and this one's,
I'm going to probably approve more loans.
You're so sweet.
And you're going to look at more applications and go, are you kidding me? But this is what casting people are looking at on the callback level. Actors go, oh, they're looking at how good I am. They already know how good you are. That's why you're there.
Yeah.
They're now going, what do I say to the director before you come in? Because you're all going to give good readings. Nobody's going to suck at that level. It's not going to happen. What do I say to the casting director? I want to be able to say, you're going to love this Tiffany. She has this sort of really friendly but somewhat over-concerned kind of thing that really could go. And you're going to like this Ravi guy because he's got this kind of, he looks like a serious guy, and then he's going to say something so left field for a bank vice. He's going to have this look. And then I want to know that you're going to come in, meet the skill level that a callback demands, but also be the unique individual that I previewed. That you're not going to go all generic because you think it's so important that you be good, that you be, and lose your individuality. So this is the thing that I work on with people. And one of the things I've discovered is that authenticity that people want to deliver is Everybody wants it. Who wants to be a phony? Right. Everybody wants to be an authentic human being, right. But there are some kind of technical issues that sort of get in the way of the flow of that, especially in stressful situations. So this is what I've chosen to work on, is solve the technical difficulties and really give people permission. And when you say you walked away with that feeling and things just changed, that's really the reason, is because underneath there's all of this permission that says, it's all about Ravi. It's all about these long-term dependencies that people have on what you bring. And the more you craft those relationships, of course you're going to be a good actor. It's expected. We all know that. We work to get our skill level up to the expected level. But how are you going to do it? And permission to go, that's what's to concern about. Can I walk away from an audition and say to myself, I was good, and given the time, they got a full dose.
Yeah.
They got a full blast of Ravi in that room. They will not forget who I am, and they'll remember I'm a good craftsman as well.
Yeah.
Can't do better than that.
So that, I just like going a little deeper on the role of authenticity a little bit. I think that, one of the things that I walked away with was, it was just this, and of course I didn't know that this was going to happen. It was just a beautiful bonus that's just translated in so many areas of my life. But a certain sense of just self-confidence that just kind of, if I was at a 5 before working with you, it's just, 8 or 9 now, but not, like I don't ever feel arrogance or cockiness at all. It's just kind of this thing where, this is how I describe it to people. Like before, I used to be so concerned and so preoccupied with what are they going to think of me when I walk in. It's kind of like walking into a bar and feeling like all eyes are on you, and how you're going to look and sound and blah 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 and all that stuff. What are they going to think of me, and how do I make a great impression so they remember me and I'm memorable and all that stuff, right? And all that stuff just kind of dropped off because I'm like, oh, well, I know what they're going to think of me because this is who I am. This is so strange to even say, like, I feel weird that's coming out of my mouth right now, but like I felt like it just allowed me to live more authentically.
I'm going to tell you the secret. It translates for your purpose as confidence and not that arrogant kind. No. And the reason that it translates that way, the way I look at it as the instructor, is permission. When we say to somebody, like if you're taking a friend to a party and with your friends that they don't know, right? The best thing you can do is say, this group of people loves intellectual stuff, so feel free, go shoot your intellectual stuff right out there, they'll love it. Or you say, this group of people, a little bit more down home, or these folks love dirty jokes, so just go for it, But that little bit of permission that you give someone for an aspect of themselves when they walk into a party, this is essentially what I want to do in your role as a storyteller, is give you permission to let the Ravi stuff be a part of the characters that you craft as the actor. And of course, that permission is valuable only because I kind of unpack all the things that take away that permission. One thing about it is we live in a world of approval and disapproval. Here's my good qualities, and these are my less good qualities. I want to lean on the good ones. And yet, the other ones creep up. We all do that. The first date, this time I'm not going to pull that stuff. It always gets me in trouble. And maybe we hold to the second date, and by the third date, it's all leaking out anyway. So we might as well just have been ourselves from the beginning. So there's that, but I also solve a little technical problem that makes this permission difficult, and that is simply that we don't see ourselves exactly the way everyone else on the outside sees us. So once we begin to go, what are those things that other people see that I don't really see about myself? Or what is it they don't see that I think is such an obvious part of myself, but other people aren't seeing it? Or what are those things that I wish they didn't see, but turns out they do, even though I went to therapy to fix it? What are those things that the world is seeing? that is permissional in itself. When you begin to go, all this stuff of worrying about what they're going to think of me, I now know what they're going to think of me. I know the stuff that I create when I walk in a room. Tiffany creates a lot more of this. Walking in a room, you know, you create a lot more of, that's just, you know, that's the nature. We all have that. Some of it's genetic and some of it's environmental, but we are who we are. It's a miracle, the uniqueness of each of us. And once we go, you know, I don't think nature makes mistakes. I'm probably pretty much how I'm supposed to be. Are there some things to adjust and be appropriate in life? Of course, but essentially, you know, when God put the Ravi formula together, he had you in mind, you know? So can I go just do it? And that, if you think about the actors that we all know and recognize, we do not go see Jack Nicholson just because he's a good actor. We also go see him because he's Jack Nicholson. And he brings with him all those wonderful Jack Nicholsonisms. And he's a great actor. That's, I think, now, if you're a movie star, you get permission from all of the return business. But for an actor building a career, and I can provide a little of that permission, it's probably okay to be you and be a good actor, and here are the elements of you that other folks are giving, that can't produce anything but confidence.
Yeah, that was ultimately, because the first time I worked with Sam was in LA 10 years ago. And the remembrance of that was so profound because it was literally that. I was working, it was great, I was having a wonderful career, but it was that moment that just turned me up, and I stopped that like me, love me, approve me BS, and I was like, this is me. We'll work together fine or we won't, but as long as we're good, we're good. Now, I say that because I've since returned, done it, I've known you for over a decade. I think that what you provide, not only to the actor, but to business, to the world at large, especially in today's media culture that's so fast, so furious, so relationally challenged, I guess is one way to put it, is priceless. And I know that in markets, we can get a little, how do I say this without going too blue? What are my limitations on the F-bomb? I feel like we get in trouble because we trust people to come in and they tell us the 10 things to do this or the 7 things to do that or the 5 things to do this. And that starts to bruise us and we get taken to the cleaners. And the one thing with you, with your program, with your teachers, with what you're offering is that it took you a while to be able to even take it out of LA because it's such an intense process. And now you're taking it out. And Toronto, DC, New York, Atlanta now, yes.
Soon Philadelphia.
Soon Philadelphia. Wow. And you're investing in a community and you create for us an opportunity to build our community stronger.
Well, it's also because I think the exciting stuff is out here. I mean, LA, Hollywood has its own excitement, and it always has, and it's fun to be a part of that environment. But I love what's going on in a place like Atlanta, where it's being born, and folks are figuring it out, and it's going to have its own particular culture.
It is really cool.
And some of you folks that are going to absolutely decide, I'm staying here. This isn't a launching pad. I landed. This is where I belong, and I've got a career. That is just thrilling to me. And that it's just always been a part of somehow, you know, I think we all arrive to do something. It takes us all a while to figure out what that is. But this thing of, you know, supporting the uniqueness. We were talking about my step-grandpa earlier, who would say things. And he's the first person, I've now seen this repeated, but he was the first person, and I won't drop the S-bomb, I'll convert slightly, but he was the first person that said to me, God doesn't make any junk. He did not say junk. But human beings turn stuff to junk. But God, nature doesn't. You're exactly what you need to be. So when we first get permission to go, oh, and I can bring that to my work, and I can bring, you know, if I'm playing the pharmacist, it's not how to play a pharmacist or how to get those lines perfect. It's what kind of pharmacist is it? Because Ravi's playing him. Now there is the lines, the story, the thing that the writer needs, but there's a living human being inside that fictional character. This is what writers can't provide, directors can't provide. This is what actors do. They put a living human being inside that fictional character. So to pretend to be the fictional character and not bring your living human beingness to it is just, that's just illusionary.
Phony.
When you start bringing a real person and we start going, oh, I know a pharmacist just like that, because you're bringing your stuff to it, then it creates that involvement that the audience has to have. The other thing I think actors have to realize is we're still, the great acting advances in learning happened in the 40s and 50s with Meisner and Strasberg and Stella Adler and Harold Clurman, all of whom I got the opportunity to sit in class with when I was a kid in New York. They were all older folks. But I got to watch Strasberg teach and watch the fantastic Harold Clurman teach. But we've remained there. That's where acting training sort of sits. The reality is, in the 50, 60 years since then, we've had reality TV, we've had 24-hour news, we've had a lot of things that means the average human being sees real people grieving or real people screwing up. So now I can't just watch the sort of illustration of grieving mother.
Right.
I see grieving mothers on 24-hour news all over the world, and I see how differently it is and what goes on. And so I'm not going to accept your cartoon of a grieving mom. I want to see a human being grieve, which means it's going to grieve the way you grieve.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a different demand.
A few minutes left, gentlemen. This has been delightful. I covet my time with you, Sam Christensen. I think that you are one of those humans that this world desperately needs. What you have brought to our community is beyond comparison, and I'm so grateful. So I will just say for the last few minutes, Ravi, if there's anything that you're burning to ask, or Sam, anything to say.
Well, I just want to say I love the compliments. I love hearing that. But I think just as each of you feel that you're called to tell stories somehow, even though people say they're, really an accountant. Yeah, but you're called to do it. And I love the compliments, but I get to do something every day that I feel pulled to do. And I don't know why I got selected to be I'll give you permission to be just as weird as you are. I don't know why I got that job, but I think,
While you're looking right at me.
I thank God nature for it every day. I get to do something that I would do it for free, and I get to make a living. What a deal,
And you're,
it's fantastic.
you're back in Atlanta. The next time you're back in Atlanta is the fall, September, October?
Mid-October, I think. It's looking like,
Okay, and we'll
the second or third week in October. Yeah.
Okay, we'll put up websites and all that because, and then any time that anyone's in LA or now Philadelphia or Toronto, New York, they can
and
check
our
you out.
website has all the different
the website,
places when we're teaching and all that.
Yeah.
So, and folks are, I love that. I want folks sooner rather than later, because I really believe I can make the acting artist's life move a little happier and faster. And so the sooner I get to give them some permission and things go better, the happier I am. So.
I hear you.
Yeah, I could not agree more. I mean, it just frees some junk up. You're just not as heavy, and you just don't take it as seriously, but you take it seriously.
Yeah,
you just
in a
take the
different way.
important things, the important things seriously, the things that you need to be focusing your energy and effort on, and you drop the other stuff.
Here's the thing I want to finish with. I don't think we give credit in this world to the amount that art and entertainment is important to us. And it's because we do it all the time. Every billboard, every TV show, every story, every book, every song is art. It's storytelling. And because we do that, we talk about how important science is and how important math is and all these things, which are also important. But the thing that drives every mathematician, every person, that keeps us plugged into being human beings are the stories that we tell. And I think the investment that you make in it, and that's made here at where they're doing this thing that we do to advance human beings, telling stories to one another and plugging back into our humanity, is an undervalued part of our world. We live in a country that spends more subsidizing tobacco than it spends subsidizing art. And I think we need to really look at that, not because it's the right thing to do, I think it is, but also because it's a huge part of our life. And to stimulate, that's art. This set is art. Everything we do is somebody translating a human experience to a medium. And as we support that, just doing what all of us are doing, we create what holds human beings together and makes culture and our expression from generation to generation larger and greater. And if you guys don't do it, you know, if you don't take the rough breaks, build careers, do what it takes to do that, and the camera people and the set designers and the painters and the sculptors and the landscape design, all these people who express us out, if we don't do that, then the world would just be math. It would just be math. And that would be not much fun.
That'd be scary. It'd be a scary place,
Right.
But
Absolutely.
Sam Christensen, thank you.
My pleasure. I had fun.
Ravi, that
I'm
was
really
fun.
glad you guys were willing to be the interviewers. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Loved it.
Thank
Yeah,
you so
thank you.
much.
Yes.
Great. Thanks.